Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back on my series on stories from the Puranas. And in our last video, we discussed how Lady Parvati meditated and she pleased Lord Shiva and made him agree to marry her. However, Lady Parvati wanted Lord Shiva to marry her with the proper rituals and proper rights, the marital rights. So that's what she requested Lord Shiva. And of course, going back, if you have not seen my earlier videos, please refer to those. The whole purpose of Shiva and Parvati's marriage was one, that Lady Parvati was actually a reincarnation of Devi Sati, who had committed suicide because of the insult given to her husband Shiva in her past birth, and was reborn again as Devi Parvati. So it was important for Devi Parvati to get united with Lord Shiva and get married to him again in this birth. And also, since the demon Tarkasur had created havoc, and as per the boons given by demon Tarkasur, that he could only be killed by Shiva's son and nobody else, it was imperative for Lord Shiva and Lady Parvati to get married, or Devi Parvati I should be saying rather, and have a son who could destroy and kill Tarkasur, the great demon Tarkasur. So after Devi Parvati meditated on Lord Shiva agreed to get married to her. However, she wanted to get married with proper social and religious rights. So she requested Lord Shiva to do that, and Lord Shiva did agree. And he sent the great Saptarishis, and Saptarishis are the great sages, the 7 great sages. And he called on upon them, and he requested them and asked them to go to King Himalaya, whose daughter Parvati was in this birth, and send the message through the great sages, to the 7 great sages, the Saptarishis, that he wished to marry King Himalaya's daughter Parvati. When the 7 great sages went to King Himalaya, he was very happy to see the sages. And when he learned that Lord Shiva wanted to marry his daughter Parvati, he was even more delighted. And a date was fixed for the marriage. And as the day of the marriage dawned, Gandharvas, and Gandharvas are singers of the heaven, which sing in the court of the king of heavens, Lord Indra, and the Apsaras, who are the dancers who dance in the court of King Indra of the heavens, they dance. So the Gandharvas sang and the Apsaras, the dancers, danced. And all the gods came to Mount Kailasha, which is the abode of Lord Shiva, to accompany Lord Shiva with the marriage procession. So as per the Hindu culture, there is a marriage procession which goes to the bride's home when the marriage is to be taken place. So all the gods came down to Mount Kailasha, and they came down to Mount Kailasa to accompany Lord Shiva for the same procession. And as far as the bride's father, King Himalaya, is concerned, he was also ready for that. He had built many gates in front of his big palace and had placed flags on them. And it was decorated beautifully. King Himalaya's residence was also decorated beautifully, and it could not be described in words. That's what is mentioned in the great Puranas. And when the marriage procession arrived at the home of King Himalaya, Parvati's mother Menka came out and she said, "Well, let me see Shiva, my son-in-law, or my would-be son-in-law rather." And my daughter Parvati has performed a lot of penance and tapasya and meditation to get Lord Shiva as a husband. So I'm assuming that Lord Shiva would be exceedingly handsome. That was in the mind of Menka, who was Devi Parvati's mother. So when she came out of the house, the first person Menka, the mother of Devi Parvati, saw was Vishwavasu, who was the king of the Gandharvas. And Gandharvas, I just explained to you, are the celestial singers. And Vishwavasu was an extremely handsome personality. And at first, Menka thought that this was Lord Shiva. But when she was told that this was only a singer who entertained Shiva, she thought that Lord Shiva would be even more handsome than Vishwavasu. And then her eyes saw the handsome Kubera, the god of wealth. And then she thought, maybe this is Lord Shiva. However, this was not the case. And although Kubera was more attractive than Vishwavasu, Menka was told that this was not Shiva either. This was not Lord Shiva. Then came Varuna, even more attractive than Kubera. So first she saw Vishwavasu, the king of the Gandharvas, the celestial singers, who was very handsome. Then she saw even more handsome Kubera, the god of wealth. And then she saw the god of the seas, Varuna, who was even more attractive and handsome than god Kubera. But again, she was told that this was not Lord Shiva. This was not the would-be son-in-law of Menka. So now she thought that, okay, it seems that Lord Shiva would be even more handsome than Varuna. And then the handsome gods, Indra, the king of the heavens, the Surya and Chandra gods, they passed by in the marriage procession as well. But it was Devarishi Narada, the sage Narada, who was telling or kind of introducing or explaining Menka that these were first Vishwavasu, then Kubera, then Varuna, then Yama, then Indra, then Surya, then Chandra, as they all passed in the marriage procession. So he was trying to point out to Menka that these are the entities. However, they are not Lord Shiva. They are simply, in other words, Lord Shiva's attendants, because Lord Shiva is the ultimate. And then Menka was extremely joyful, and she thought, well, if these handsome personalities, these handsome gods, are the attendants of Lord Shiva, how would be the master like? And then again, she mistook Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and the god Brahaspati, or Guru, or the Guru of the gods, for Lord Shiva. And every time they passed and she was mistaking everybody as Lord Shiva, sage Narada told her that no, she was wrong, this was not Shiva. And finally Shiva came, and then sage Narada pointed out Lord Shiva to Menka. And as soon as she saw her would-be son-in-law, Menka was shocked, and she felt unconscious. What she saw was, and why was she unconscious? Well, what she saw was Lord Shiva was surrounded by ghosts and spirits from all sides. And the faces of the ghosts and spirits were fierce. They had dark complexions. And Lord Shiva himself rode on a bull. He had 3 eyes, 5 faces, and 10 arms. Of course, we've talked about the third eye of Shiva. We know that Shiva has 5 faces, and we know that Shiva has 10 arms. His whole body was smeared with ashes, and then moon was placed on his forehead. It was actually adorned on his forehead. He was dressed in a tiger skin, and a garland of skulls hung around his neck. No wonder Menka fainted. And when she recovered, she began to scold her husband Himalaya, sage Narada, and her daughter Parvati for the big misfortune and the big mistake they are committing. Lord Brahma and the other gods tried to pacify Menka, but to no avail. And then Lady Menka said, I am not going to permit my daughter to be married to Shiva. I will give her poison instead. I will throw her into a well and kill her instead of getting her married to Lord Shiva. I would rather chop her up into pieces with a weapon instead of giving her in marriage to Lord Shiva. I will throw her into the sea instead of marrying her to Lord Shiva. I will kill myself if she has to marry Lord Shiva. I'm going to get my daughter Parvati married to somebody else, and definitely not to Lord Shiva. However, Parvati had resolved that she is not going to marry anybody else than Lord Shiva. And again, Lord Vishnu tried to pacify Menka, mother of Devi Parvati, but he was not successful either. Finally, sage Narada then came up to Lord Shiva and requested him, please display your beautiful form. And Lord Shiva agreed. And this form is a divine form of Lord Shiva, which is shown only to the devotees and extreme devotees to Lord Shiva. And as soon as Shiva appeared or changed himself to that beautiful form, everybody in the marriage was mesmerized by his beautiful form. Even Menka, who just a moment ago was shocked to see Shiva smeared with ashes and surrounded by ghosts, so on and so forth, and was not ready to give her daughter in marriage to Lord Shiva. And in this beautiful form, Lord Shiva's body shone like 1,000 suns, and a crown sparkled on his head. His clothes were glittering, and his jewels even put the stars to shame. They were so beautiful and full of luster. And then Menka, Parvati's mother, begged Shiva for forgiveness and her foolishness. And of course, now there were no further hindrances or obstacles to the marriage. And under Lord Brahma's supervision, why Lord Brahma's supervision? Because he's the ultimate Brahmana. The marriage ceremony took place. And after getting married, Lord Shiva and Devi Parvati returned to Mount Kailasha, their abode. So this was a story directly from the Puranas. This is not out of fiction, and this explains, in the previous video we saw how Devi Parvati had Lord Shiva agree to the marriage, and in this video we saw how Lord Shiva came in the marriage procession with full social, cultural and religious rites, accompanied by the gods and the sages and all of his attendants, and came up and got married to Devi Parvati. And after getting married, Lord Shiva and Devi Parvati returned to Mount Kailasha. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. In the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic. Actually, as a matter of fact, I will see you with the continuation of the stories from the Puranas very soon. Goodbye.